Good morning, everybody. 13th of July. Well, it's still morning. It's 11, little after 11, 11:05, 11:10 here in Minsk, Belarus. And yeah, this is that's right near where I live, kind of. Nove Theater. And this is where one time they told me I'm not allowed to film there. And then I went over here, a little supermarket, I think, there, and some other little businesses. And they called, the people from here called the police on me. And the police came up to me. They said, you can film anywhere. You can't film on a military base. So they brought me over here, the police, called this lady out and said he's allowed to film here. You know, it's like, I don't know. I'll tell you what, when I was in Germany, I was in a supermarket and they told me, there were like 3 of them. It's like I can't film there. We're talking about Germany now. And here, this is a former Soviet Union. And I've been in lots of supermarkets filming, and lots of people do. And they never tell you. They never come up to you and tell you you can't film. But yet, in the land of the free in the West, they come up to you and tell you you're not allowed to film in these places. So it's really like what a lot of people say, it's kind of like a revolution. Things have changed very much so. And in the West, it's much more like what it used to be like in the Soviet Union. And over here, it's a lot freer in a lot of ways. And, you know, they don't want to broadcast that in the West. They want you to think that they line people up in firing squads here and do all kinds of crazy stuff. You even cross the border, like from Vilnius or some places like that, and they tell you, they have signs, official signs by the government, and say, are you sure you want to go to Belarus? You may never come back. Things like that. And then they have one sign, big sign over the freeway, and it said something like, Belarus or occupied by the Kremlin. And it's the government's put that stuff out. And guess what? Belarus doesn't put stuff out like that from Vilnius or from any of those other countries. It's just incredible. It's absolutely unbelievable. So it's just a huge amount of propaganda. And of course they propagandize the people here in Belarus too, to think that life is so much better in all of these other places. And us foreigners that come here from other countries, not just the United States or the UK or Germany or all this stuff, and we all sit there and shake our heads, and we wonder why are there a lot of Belarusians that think it's better in the West? And I'm going to be probably having a what do you call it? I don't know. Do a video with some another American guy that I met in a little over a year ago in the metro, and I just talked to him for 1 minute because I think I heard him speaking English with somebody or something like that. Anyway, but I talked to him for 1 minute because you have to get out, or he's got to get out, or I got to get out. And anyway, in 1 minute I realized this guy knows what's going on, and his name is Andrew, and I'll meet him in the very near future, because I asked him, I said, let's do a video. He's a like bodybuilder type of guy, really knowledgeable in medical sort of research, laboratory research things, stem cell research and all that, and a lot about nutrition, bodybuilding, all kinds of things like that. So it'll be a very interesting video. But in that 1 minute, he said, Belarusians need to get out more. I think he's only 28 years old, but very wise, very smart. He has his own channel, and it's not as easy of a name to remember, but I'll try to, when I have the video with him in the very near future, I'll have some sort of a, write it down so you guys can at least tune into his channel and listen to some of his things. You might not agree with everything he says, but he knows what he's talking about. Anyhow, let's get on with the news here. This is going to probably be kind of a long video, and people have been asking me to do longer videos because some of the last ones have been short. I did one at the airfield yesterday. I made a few flights before, and this time I have a relative visiting here from Paris, and he wants to be a pilot, and he was so anxious to have the chance probably to get in the airplane, and so he really enjoyed it. And I asked Eugenio, can he go with you? And yeah, he went with Eugenio, and of course it was one of the reasons why he really wanted to come here was to go up in the airplane. So that was good. You can see that video if you want, if you're into that, small plane enthusiast or something. So, okay, get on with the news. Benjamin Netanyahu, boy, that guy. I tell you what, he is in seventh heaven right now because he's got Donald Trump. As you all know, anybody with their brain switched in the on position, even if you only have 2 brain cells, you can realize he's got Donald Trump wrapped around his little finger many, many times. He can get Donald Trump to do anything he wants to do. And you just have to look at some of the past presidencies, these administrations. You had Barack Obama and even Joe Biden. And if you had like somebody controlling Joe Biden, what was that guy's name? The guy that thinks he's wanted to be a rock musician, his Secretary of State, I believe. But anyway, a lot of these people, and most of these people in the US government, they're all pro-Israel. And that really gives you cause to wonder, how is that? How can that possibly be? But anyhow, these people have well, we'll put it a different way. Israel has a tremendous grip on most of the people in the United States government. Congress, the lower house, the upper house, as well as in the cabinets. And, Donald Trump put some people that are not necessarily, controlled by Israel. But, unfortunately, those are sort of like sidelined. You see some free-thinking people, and obviously they are, in a way, captured themselves, such as Tulsi Gabbard. Tulsi Gabbard is a humanist type of person, and she's got to go along to get along, because if she's out of the administration, she's in no position whatsoever to do any good for anybody in humanity or anything. Then she's just a regular average Josephine, not Joe, a regular average Josephine just walking around on the streets and has no power to do anything. So I guess she's kind of going along to get along, and it's probably very distasteful for her to be doing going along with some of these things, but besides the point. Anyway, Netanyahu. And since I started writing this paper here, this thing, just even a day or two ago, things have happened since then that more reiterates the point. They're just bombing the crap out of Gaza, and Netanyahu, he just, I think I wrote this stuff down. I'll get into it. My mind hits on this stuff, and I have this compulsion in me to try to throw it out at you guys. It'd be better if I was reading from a teleprompter, and a lot of emotion, and this guy and Netanyahu. This guy is somebody that I have no respect for. I have less respect for him than I do of Zelensky, who sends hundreds of thousands of his men to certain death, to die against the Russians, knowing that they're going to get killed. And he doesn't bat an eyelid. He acts like, oh, wow, this is so bad and all that. Well, then why you keep doing it? And it's like, you even look at Donald Trump. Oh, I want to stop the killing. Well, then how come you support the killing? Donald Trump has been a big disappointment to everybody, mostly his MAGA people. And you have to be probably just in love with Donald Trump, not the movement, or not the mission that he said that he was out to do, because he's obviously now proving that he's not out to do that mission. So you might just have to love Donald Trump, and I feel sorry for you to worship some being that is not even deserving of it. I mean, it's like, I don't like to compare people with, say, Adolf Hitler, but you had this, or even like Stalin, but Stalin did a lot of good things, and he had a bad side as well. There's even a good side of Adolf Hitler, Oh, how dare you say something like that? And it's like a lot of people would be saying right now, oh, Donald Trump has a good side and a bad side. Sure, maybe it's a little bit more balanced, but I tell you, You know, if you're sitting there thinking that everything that Donald Trump does, and he wants everybody to think, because you can hear it in his words, he goes around and he thinks everything that Donald Trump decides, everything he touches, it all turns to gold. You know, the golden boy, everything is gold that Donald Trump has anything to do with. The greatest of this and the greatest of that, everything is the greatest. You know, lies, I defeated ISIS single-handedly, I went back in time and I'm the one that won World War II, not the Russians. You know, the guy is, I hate to say it, you know, because I had a lot of hope for Donald Trump, but, you know, and I even looked aside, you know, with all of his pathetic little exaggerations and mistruths and things, and some of the things he said, basically it is the truth, but nobody else comes out and said it. Obviously there was some cheating done to make sure that Joe Biden becomes the president. That's very obvious. You know, so Donald Trump comes up with a lot of truth, and then even sometimes he comes up with some some things, and then he even contradicts himself, and he tries to find ways to show that he's not contradicting himself. I mean, there's some pathetic things. Just you heard the other day, Donald Trump, when some reporter asked him something about the Epstein thing. The Epstein thing, it was just put out maybe one day before, or maybe 2 days before that, oh, there is no clients list. Oh, really? Even after everybody said there was a list, like Pam Bondi, oh, I got the list on my desk. And of course they didn't write a list down like, oh, number one, number two, number three, Bill Gates, Dallin Dershowitz, Prince Andrew, and all these other people. They didn't have some kind of a list like that. But I don't know. If it wasn't drawn up by Epstein, obviously, he's not going to do that. Oh, look at all these people I'm going to blackmail and who I'm going to use, and I'm going to manipulate them. And of course, a lot of people have put out that these are like working together, the CIA and the Mossad and MI6, you know, and these people were compromised. Bill Clinton, I mean, come on. But, you know, and then they talk about children. I don't know. You know, Pam Bondi said that there is this film stuff, and she said disgusting with children. And then now all of a sudden, there is no film. It's like Candace Owens is saying, you know, they had a Men in Black sort of this thing, and then you forget everything that just happened. Oh, it didn't happen actually. You know, or like this, or the Jedi thing going, it didn't happen, it didn't occur. I mean, there's some crap like that. So it's a very big insult to anybody who, like I said, who has even one friggin' brain cell. So anybody going along with this crap that Donald Trump and his gang is coming up with, I really feel sorry for you. You really have a unworkable brain, you know, that they tell you one, I mean, you just go along, and they'll switch back the other, maybe tomorrow they'll say, oh, there is a clients list. Oh, okay. You know, first it's like, there is a clients list. Oh, yeah, and it all made sense. And then now there is no client. Okay. Oh, okay, now I understand. And now there is one. Oh, okay. I mean, why would they come out in the first place and say this? Who would just invent something out of thin air? I mean, no, there was some crap going on. 100% accurately, who knows? It's probably a lot worse than what we think it is. But anyway, let's just keep going here. I'm going to go by my thing. It's like 5 pages. I haven't even started practically yet. So, the greatest in the world, Benjamin. Oh yeah, Trump said that too, that he's the greatest. And as you know, as you've been seeing, it's very easy to get, at least to manipulate Donald Trump, at least to a certain point. You just have to placate his ego. You have to say that he's the greatest and all that. And you see, like, what was this, Rutte, the Secretary General of NATO, calling him daddy and all this. So you just have to sit around and sing his praises, and then Donald Trump will, that's the beginnings of, you can wrap him around your little finger. Of course, you have to have some prominence. You can't be some nobody and praise Donald Trump. You know, you have to somehow be a worthy person, and then you praise Donald Trump, and then maybe you can start to manipulate him and things like that. And like I said, he's not like a terrible guy completely. You know, he's done some charity work. He doesn't go around bragging like he pays for some operations with some people that maybe are going to die otherwise. So he's done some good things. So I'm not going to totally. It's just he's in charge of a country, And you can't just be swinging around all over it. He's definitely, what's the word, radical. He's definitely radical. And it's like his decision-making skills, it's instability or unstable. You can't rely on anything the guy says. I mean, it's just, but, okay. And then what is it? Yeah, as you all have been hearing, Donald Trump and who is it? Bibi Netanyahu recommends him for a Nobel Peace Prize. Donald Trump says he should get 5 Nobel Peace Prizes or some stuff like that for, minor little things. And of course he said he would end this war between Russia and Ukraine in 24 hours, or even before he reaches office and all this. And he's not any. It's very simple. You just stop funding the friggin' Nazis, and of course, then the Nazis are going to probably have to find some other way. And of course, you even have so many Nazis in Europe. You have them in Estonia and Latvia and Lithuania, and maybe not even realizing it, but the Polish. There's a lot of Polish Nazis as well. Even though the Nazis, they were the victims of the Nazis for a lot of the time, but they don't even realize that they're also Nazis. When you support the Nazis, even if you speak bad about the Nazis, and yet you support Nazis, I mean, And then like Zelensky, I guess he was playing stupid. I guess, what? You mean some Ukrainians killed a lot of Polish people in World War II? I never heard of that. I don't know that. I mean, I don't know. It works for Hillary Clinton and a lot of other people. You play ignorant. These people that are supposed to be far, far, far better informed than we are, and then they come out and they play totally ignorant, like they don't know anything at all. I don't know. Donald Trump, it's even like Tucker Carlson said, there are no Nazis. But Tucker Carlson, if it's very true that he doesn't have a computer, doesn't have a laptop, he never looks at it, and then I even wonder how he knows anything, and he seems to be very well informed on a lot of things. And it's not like they put this stuff in newspapers. How does he know? He's got a staff that reports things to him. And I don't know, they didn't tell him that there's a lot of Ukrainians running around with swastikas. They have them tattooed on them, and they even say Zig Heil. And of course, the Zig Heil for Ukraine is Slava Ukraina. That means Zig Heil, basically, in Bandera language. That was their Nazi cry. And Bandera loved Adolf Hitler. And he hated Jews, and he wanted them all. He hated lots of people, but I guess that's their founding father, some guy that Zelensky really admires. Oh, I didn't know he killed anybody, Bandera. Yeah, boy, I can talk all day. But he said what to Joseph Boakai, the president of Liberia, who was there to visit him. Said, "Oh, your English is good. Where did you learn English?" And that Boakai should have said, well, that's the official language of the country that I'm from. And Donald Trump, what was in the 1860s or something, I think I even wrote the date here, 1882, much earlier. It was pretty much established, even the name Liberia, by the United States. And I think that was a place for slaves to go. And probably in the time maybe of, was that Thomas Jefferson, or was that, I think, who was president at that time? Andrew Jackson? I'm not even sure, but there were a lot of inklings. Even Thomas Jefferson said slavery is an abomination to mankind, and he wanted there to be no slaves by the year 1800. So, but then again, he had slaves. He inherited a Monticello, I guess, from his father, and if he would have gotten rid of all slaves there, then of course the whole thing would have just been total collapse, and it wasn't even running well in the first place because he treated slaves very good. He had running water in the slave quarters, and there were even other plantations in the South in Virginia that didn't even have running water for the rich folks that lived in the big house, and he had it in the slave quarters. So he was not a bad person, no matter what they try to tell you in U.S. history. The leftist weirdos I tell you what, U.S. real screwed up place, lots of misinformation and lies and things all over. I don't know. Of course, it fluctuates around here too. I mean, even in this, like I just told you about the Belarusians, and it's like, people that live on the outside, that of Belarus, and they see Belarus, a lot more different. You have a guy, and they tell you that he's really bad. This leader's really bad, but there are no wars. Belarus has never been in a war ever since he's been in there. in office, and if anybody should get, but what about Donald Trump? He wants the Peace Prize, but yet he bombed Iran, and he, I mean, you can just go on and on about all of the violence and things like that, but Lukashenko, he's never bombed any country or nothing like that, but yet he's a bad guy. Does that make any sense? Nothing makes sense anymore. That's one reason why it's difficult to make videos, because all this stuff that they're brainwashing us with, it's like, well, you start looking at the evidence and say, that's friggin' not true. It's just, those things didn't happen. And just like yesterday, I think it was, I wrote it on the very back. I'll get to that anyway. It's like, I think just in one day, the Israelis killed 150 innocent people from their bombing raids all over the place in Gaza. And then they had this footage with big areas, just a whole bunch of bombs and bombing all these places, destroying everything. Oh yeah, it's all Hamas there, Anyway, let me just keep on going here. But Donald Trump, he didn't know that the official language of Liberia was English. I think it's in Ghana as well. And that's almost next door. Is it next door? That they're in the same sort of area there. Ivory Coast and all that. Okay. So, yes, and there's a lot of people coming out. Oh, it's kind of mosquitoes. And they're saying that Donald Trump is actually doing the opposite of what they were made to believe. So he's actually a fabulous con artist, you think. He might even be better than Zelensky. Donald Trump admires Zelensky's ability as a con artist. He said, like, he goes around and gets billions of dollars every time he goes traveling from everywhere. And Donald Trump funding these wars. He gives as many bombs as he possibly can to Israel, and now he's sending bombs again to Ukraine. I guess he's sending now, I think it's was it 350 million of his own. It is not coming from the Biden part there. And then I think there's something called like some presidential drawdown or whatever, and it's not even part of that Biden money. It's $3.86 billion, and like he's going to try to get that to Ukraine and all that. So he's negotiating with Russia, just like he did with Iran, and then he turns around and secretly bombs Iran. And he's supposed to come out with something tomorrow. Tomorrow's Monday, and he's supposed to have some big announcement, something about Russia, and everybody's expecting it's going to be like something that he's going to put sanctions on Russia, probably secondary sanctions, and tariffs, and there's no end to this crap from Donald Trump. So now he surprised the European Union. I think it's a 30% tariff, and then I have it written here. I'm getting ahead of myself, obviously, but I'm thinking about it right now at the time. And there's like this Lula Silva, the President Lula of Brazil. Now Donald Trump announced he's going to put 50% tariffs on Brazil. And what's that for? Well, there's different reasons what it's really for. And one reason, and maybe it's for it because Bolsonaro, the former president who was running against Lula da Silva, he lost the election, and I guess the judiciary or some people in Brazil believe he was even had involved maybe in but of course it hasn't gone to trial yet, so the information hasn't actually been released, but that he has Bolsonaro was maybe involved in like an assassination plot against Lula da Silva. And Lula da Silva, as you know, spent some years in prison. I don't know, maybe it was Bolsonaro that put him in prison. You don't even know this stuff. It's not really a radical country anyway. I don't mind Bolsonaro. I don't think he was a bad leader, and I don't think Lula da Silva is a bad leader. So it's not like I have any preference between the two of them necessarily, but Lula da Silva won the election, so leave him there. And but anyway, there's going to be some trial apparently against Bolsonaro, and Trump likes Bolsonaro. Bolsonaro, he's also a guy, he didn't get vaccinated, so that's another good thing about Bolsonaro. But anyway, supposedly these 50% tariffs are because they're bringing Bolsonaro to trial. So it's like one is economic and the other one is judiciary that has nothing to do with economics. And it's like, and besides that, it's very, very, very much meddling in another country. It's very much like what Joe Biden said, uh, what was this about this some guy they put him to fire a judge. They Joe Biden told Poroshenko back when he was vice president. Biden was vice president. He said to fire this one judge, and because he was investigating his son. So the judge got fired, and Joe Biden even was at the anyway, he was at some official meeting bragging about it, that he called over to Poroshenko and told him to fire the judge, and son of a bitch, he did. Ha 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 ha, you know. So these guys, I don't know if you pardon my wording, but these guys are all a bunch of bastards, whether it be Joe Biden or Donald Trump, you know. And then when you put them up against somebody like Assad, who is not a bad guy, like they try and made everybody think so, or even maybe Lula da Silva. I mean, maybe these guys have a little bit of a bad side as well, but they're definitely nothing compared to Donald Trump or any of these other people, these presidents of the United States. These are some really nasty, nasty people. They're filthy, nasty, cheating people, you know. I guess you cannot be the president of the United States or take any high position in politics in the United States without being a dirty, rotten, nasty bastard, I guess. That's basically what it all comes down to. Probably in a lot of these other places too, like Germany. You got Merz, you know, his ancestry was Nazi. Annalena Baerbock, her ancestors were Nazi. Ursula von der Leyen, Nazis again. And I mean, there's a lot of them. And I guess they try to put people that have Nazi descendants in high positions. Really strange stuff. But these are nasty people anyway. I mean, they must have inherited. I would not want to say that you should blame the children for the crimes of the parents. It's not like it's going to be automatic since your grandparents or your whatever were Nazis that you're going to be a Nazi. That's definitely not true. You know, my grandfather was a member of the Nazi Party, and but you had to do it at that time to get a job. He's not killing anybody as far as I know. I don't know, because he disappeared after the war. He was taken prisoner of war by the Russians, and he was a very good shot, which I am not. I'm good with a handgun, but I'm terrible with a rifle. Well, not terrible, just not good. But they cut his finger off, and luckily he was a cook, so he probably got enough food. And then after the war, he kind of disappeared, I guess, my grandfather. But he was, you know, mostly a regular guy. He's not like, you know, doing any of the stuff that you think of. Because in those days, it's like, if you want to eat, this is even before the war, if you want to eat and you want a job, because it was a very bad time, and a lot of people don't know that after the First World War, in between the wars in Germany. And, you know, my mother was telling me about it, you know, that people, you know, you had to be deloused because you had lice in your hair, everybody, and there wasn't enough food. So, you know, and then they were in a farming place, and, you know, you grew food and your neighbors would steal some of yours and you go steal some of theirs, you know, to get some certain things, and, you know, to whatever, fruits and things like that. A lot of bad stuff. She told me a lot of things about the poverty times back then, and if you wanted to work, you have to. And the Nazi Party was a work party. It's called the NSDAP, the National Democratic Socialist Workers Party. That's what that stood for, the NSPAD. And you know, the National Socialist. And the war stuff came up later and all that. But in order to get a job, you know, building roads and things like that, and get paid in order to feed your family, in those days you kind of had to do it. Anyway, that's another story. So, boy, I'm really not getting into my notes here. So, you all know about the big cover-up, and it's definitely a cover, undeniably. And then Donald Trump, oh, you're still talking about that when it was only one day. You know, in other words, he's trying to bury the story, very embarrassed by it, you know. And who knows why that is? Maybe Israel, because Epstein tied to, you know, is Jewish, and he's tied to the Mossad. I mean, you guys all know the history. You can look all that stuff up. And Israel, of course, they're the ones that orders Donald Trump around. It's they're in control. They run for the most part, and you can. It's undeniable. Israel has they're the most powerful entity controlling within the United States government. And anybody that does not know that, you're really incredibly stupid. Israel exercises more control over the United States government than the entire population, the voting population, does. For the most part, a lot of your Congress people, they will do the bidding of Israel before they will do the bidding of their voters. It's a very, very sad thing. I'm glad I'm in Belarus and they don't have that sort of stuff going on over here. Probably not in Russia or any of the, or even Brazil or any of these other countries. But you know, that's one reason why they seek to control those countries. Okay, so let's now keep on going. 50% tariffs. I hope De Silva, he said he's going to counter the tariffs. Who knows? Who knows if you can possibly do that? You know, I hope he's going to be able to resist it. I think the only way is you have to get a lot of countries all together, joining together and trading together. And Lula da Silva, he wants to get out of the US dollar. And I don't know, Putin has a little bit of a different view on this sort of thing, but I won't even get into that. He wants a basket of currencies and everybody to trade within their own currencies, but yet not attack or try to kill the dollar. And Lula da Silva maybe is a little bit different. And of course, one main reason why Donald Trump is going after Brazil is he's starting to try to go after all the BRICS countries. He wants to collapse and to, I don't know, defang BRICS, because he's very scared. You know, these people, they want the dominance of the US dollar because that's how they control the world and be the masters of the universe. That's how Donald Trump controls everything. He knows that, and he wants control. He wants it to stay that way. Donald Trump undeniably is a megalomaniac. You have to admit that. You know, regardless of any good points he has, he definitely wants to stay in control. He wants to, you know, he's a very controlling guy. There's, I mean, obvious. I mean, you have to be blind not to see that. So he wants to maintain the unipolar world, and he doesn't like this what Putin is trying to do with multipolar world. So the weaponization of the dollar to keep the world's currency, that's obviously the thing. But Donald Trump, you know, I mean, you can actually just run a vlog on Donald Trump because he does something newsworthy every single day. He comes up with something. You know, like I said when I was making this here, it's like, you know, sending weapons to Ukraine, and a lot of people, you know, think, oh, how bad Obama was and Biden. But when you really think about it, the first one, you know, Trump likes to brag. He likes to brag and says, Obama sent blankets, I sent javelins. So you have to really think he's going to be sending even more deadly weapons. And he's got to probably all start to realize that maybe Russia will now start actually sending some weapons to Iran. I wonder how they would like that. But the problem is then, and I think it's this sort of a balancing of, you know, of relations. You know, Russia does not have bad relations with Israel, but as you know, Donald Trump hates Iran, regardless of what he says, and regardless of what Netanyahu says, the great nation of Iran, he hates Iran. He wants to completely destroy Iran. Netanyahu wants to destroy all of the countries in the whole Middle East so he can dominate. These people are just charlatans. What they say, anything nice, like anything about, you know, like Gaza, oh, they can stay in Gaza if they wish. And of course, if they just have and they want to live in a tent, and they want to go raid the garbage cans of the rich people when he puts up his resort, you know, if they want to find some fish bones and eat those and all that, you know, oh, then they can stay in Gaza. Whatever. But Trump, as you all know, as he was doing negotiations with Iran, and like he's doing things with Russia right now, and he'll turn around and stick a knife in your belly while he's looking in you in the eye and smiling at you. So, you know, and he probably would have gotten around to blowing up the Nord Stream as well, just like Biden did. But he just didn't think it was needing that far. He put the sanctions on them. So he's the one that started that, and, you know, meddling in everybody's affair. So anybody who helps Russia build the Nord Stream, you know, they're going to get sanctioned. And, you know, he's the one that started all that, and sending the javelins. So anything that he says about being friends with Russia, that's not being friends with Russia. You know, he wants to trick Russia. I really don't think that Russia is that stupid. I think they know that, and everybody will be smiling and shaking hands together, while you're dropping bombs, you know, in that country. I don't know. I guess that's the whole thing. Maybe it's better than what Bush and all that. If you don't, like them and you want to be their enemy, you just don't talk to them. Yeah. Yes. I don't know. I don't think the Chinese really appreciate, this fake friendship. But when you start getting down to it, it's very, very obvious, and you just have to look at trends, look at all the information, put it all together. And Donald Trump, he's not like so, he acts like he's America first. And it's not that he hates the United States, because he certainly doesn't. But Donald Trump, in truth, he is Israel first. It's just like Lindsey Graham or any of these people. They're Israel first, because Israel made these people. Israel put Donald Trump in the White House. I am sure of it. I was putting this out as theory, but anybody now that just starts to think, I think other people have said that since I was saying this from the very beginning. They put him in the White House, and I'm sure a lot of people realize that right now. But of course, it's America second to Donald Trump. Israel first, America second. So he will never, do anything that bad to Israel. He'll play around and act like, America first, but it's Israel first. Okay. But one of the things, like you see George Soros, everybody says, oh, Jew, he's a Jew. Oh, that's a bad thing, Jew. But Jew is not necessarily, as I keep saying, is not a bad thing. But you have, some of these types, there are, different kind of beliefs. Like there's a lot of different churches in Christianity too. They all have slightly different beliefs. You have these Zionist Jews, and then you have, within Zionism, you have a lot of these little, I guess you'd call them sects. And I think a lot of them, they don't even believe in God. You'd be surprised. There are bishops, and I know this for a fact because I knew people intricately involved in the Catholic Church. There are bishops in the Catholic Church that do not even believe in God. Trust me. And a lot of you Christians are going to be really pissed off about me saying that. But what am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to expose them? I don't even know who they are. I know somebody who does know some that have told him that, but that worked in that church in the very highest levels. But I'm not going to really go into that. You can believe me or not believe me. Just leave it at that. You can go ahead and say, oh, that's a bunch of bullshit. Fine, But anyway, but Soros is an atheist. He worked against Jews. He turned Jews into the Nazis when he was a little boy. And a lot of Jews hate George Soros. George Soros, I don't really even understand what his whole agenda is anyway. So I was putting here, but it's like news every day. Ukraine bombs apartment buildings and all that, but it never ever gets told in the West. They bomb civilians purposefully. Children get killed. They bomb somebody. They tried to bomb their car. It just barely missed, and they had a lot of this stuff is on videotape. It's incredible. So, and sometimes they do kill a lot of people. But they double bombed a apartment building in Kherson, and I don't think there was even any high official or anything there. So they bombed it twice, and rescuers could not go to rescue the people from the rubble because they had drones flying all around, buzzing around. And if anybody went to try to rescue them, the Ukrainians would bomb them. It's just like in Israel. They would have a suicide drone come and kill you as well. So to make sure that these people all died. Yeah, very nice guys, those Nazis, right? And Israel, I keep talking about, and doctors keep setting up like kind of these makeshift hospitals. Sometimes they get donations of these machines that sometimes are allowed to get in. Sometimes Israel lets these convoys, some of them come in, and so they can get food, the people in Gaza, but still a lot of starvation, people dying right and left from sicknesses, and some sicknesses are not even identified in medicine because these people like drinking sewage water and things because I don't know, and they're skinny, and it's really terrible stuff. But Israel lies. Oh, we're the most humanitarian people on earth and all that sort of thing. Probably Donald Trump buys it. But anyway, they get makeshift hospitals set up, and then Israel, of course, bombs them. Then it's the same old thing over and over and over again. They send these people to a safe zone, and then they bomb the safe zone. People line up for aid, and then they bomb them. They bomb them while they're waiting for food. So you see dead, and I tell you what, there's film footage. I don't know. Maybe you can't even show it on YouTube anyway. But you see these like teenage boys and oftentimes children in pools of blood, and they're dead. Some of them are just barely moving, you know, because it's soon after, you know, Israel bombs them while they're waiting for food, you know, and like bombing them while they're sitting in their tents, and because their homes are all, and a lot of them have rebuilt their homes 3 times. It's just over and over and over again. Yeah, but Trump keeps sending those bombs, you know, and they're gearing up for another bombing of Iran. They're already talking about it. I don't think there's any plans yet, but you never know. I was even going to talk today about this concept of genocide, and actually genocide, maybe that's obsolete. They don't really, and I don't know if there really ever was, because how are you going to wipe out a whole genotype of people? You can't really do that. So all of this stuff, you know, genocide is defined as destroying every human possessing this particular genetics, but it's impossible, I would say, at this time. I don't know, nearly. And Israel just wants those people out. They want ethnic cleansing, I guess. And if they don't leave, then actually it's genocidal attacks trying to kill them off. And of course, the thing obviously they love to do, they love to kill the children. That's the #1 target. It's not military age men, it's children, you know, and pregnant women especially. And that's a known fact, and that is well known in Israeli society, you know, that they love to kill pregnant women. That is the biggest and the best target, they say. Yes, I don't know, sometimes you wonder if the USA is like that. Yes, and what about genetic weapons? Still a lot of talk about that. I'm not, you know, it's very difficult to talk about this stuff on YouTube because YouTube does not like this, and you cannot connect it to any country. And I can say that there's a country in the Middle East, you guys all know who that would be, that they were looking into having genetic weapons to kill off certain types of people. And I don't know if they're doing that anymore. I haven't heard much about it for a long time. But I know that there's one in Eastern Europe, and they're connected to Nazism and Bandera, and you guys already know who that one is. And they definitely have lots of laboratories. It's a known fact by their own records that they're trying to make genetic weapons to kill off, should I just say it, Russians. Or maybe I'm allowed to say something like that on YouTube. But yes, that's what they want. But I don't know. Luckily, they have not been successful. And there's a country that's on the other side of the Atlantic from Europe, big, rich country, fabulously rich, with huge amounts of bombs and weapons. Somebody's having a trouble with their car, trying to push start it, I guess. But anyhow, there's this other country too, and they're very much helping. They're giving millions and millions of dollars and lots of equipment and everything possible, and experts. And a lot of the stuff is written in English, but they're trying to create these types of weapons. And I'm saying, this video might not make it up because it's probably something that's not supposed to be talked about. We'll see. I've been deleted many times for this. Matter of fact, that's one of the only reasons why they've been deleting me all the time, is I talk about this stuff, and it is a known fact. There's records about this, and maybe that's why you guys don't hear so much of it, because you get deleted from YouTube if you talk about it. Well, we'll see what happens. Okay. Anyway, my 3 months are up since I was banned the last time, probably talking about that. And so I guess I'm kind of start off from scratch. I get 3 strikes again, I believe. But last time, they didn't tell me that I had the other 2 strikes, and all of a sudden they deleted me. I said, what? You never told me I had 1 strike or 2 strikes, and now it's the 3rd strike? I don't know, so we'll see. Okay. But it's mostly the ethnic cleansing is what it's all about. I saw a short clip from Ron Paul's Liberty Report, and the commentator guy mentioned that when a reporter asked Trump about a release of Epstein files, Trump said, "Are you still talking about that?" Well, that's when I first saw that. I already just talked to you guys about that. So, but anyway, Trump is trying very hard to cover all this stuff up, you know, and really disgusting. Tucker is insinuating Epstein was working for Israel against the United States. And anyway, he came out and said that, I guess, in front of a large crowd. That anyway, okay, Armenia, which is obviously one of the most Christian, if not the most Christian country on the planet, and the leader Pashinyan, like I said, I believe he's heavily compromised by the United States, and he's continuing to arrest priests and take over the churches because that's the strongest entity. And I guess that he's trying to gain a lot of power now, and there's some sort of a connection, I think, now with Azerbaijan, which they were actually fighting before, and it might even be gone against Russia. So maybe it looks like the West, obviously the United States of America, they went there and they made some sort of a deal with Armenia and with Azerbaijan to somehow turn against Russia. And there's a lot of it's got like some real geopolitical implications, because Iran is borders right there in that area, and then you have Turkey and all that, and there's ways to manipulate. Negative, that positive reinforcement and negative, and maybe it's something to do with Pavlov, remember, psychological stuff. So you reward somebody like Donald Trump says, oh, they're the greatest person on earth, and whatever the heck he does if you do things he likes. Otherwise, you get told you're scum, and he makes up some really disgusting names for you if you don't do what Donald Trump wants you to do. Things like that. So that's just on the media level. And looks like there's something going on there with Azerbaijan and Armenia, and what's Pashinyan, what he's trying to do is a little bit similar to Ukraine. Like, as you know, they banned the Orthodox Church, but which was tied actually with Russia, even though it was an independent church in Ukraine. But these churches in Armenia are not even tied in any way to the Russian church. They should maybe have a friendship or something, and it was like a division of church and state, and now they are also now trying to take over that and destroy the Christianity, the oldest, as you know, I think it was the Aramaic or whatever, anyway, but the Jesus' earthly parents, Mary and Joseph, were from an Armenian tribe, and I think this monastery is like the oldest in the world that's in Armenia and stuff, but it has this Christian tradition that's ancient. Like I said, some say it's the oldest Christian church in the world. Oldest Christianity is Armenia, and now it's getting destroyed. So terrible stuff like that. And Tucker Carlson, if he's a big Christian as he says, he should be talking about this too. Yes, okay. I was just going to say, like Tucker Carlson also, when he talks about this Christianity, he should have said, what Jesus said, know them by their fruits. And then you can look at Donald Trump, and obviously he's an Israeli first. You can look at any kind of these Gospels, like what is it, the Ten Commandments, and I guess that's the Old Testament, in Judaism, thou shalt not kill. But what about Netanyahu? Did anybody tell him about that commandment? I don't know. Yeah, and it looks like Germany is going to be sending these long-range Taurus missiles. Merz really, he really wants to provoke Russia, but I think it's a little bit early and doesn't really understand. And I think somebody from Russia was saying, well, we know where the factories are that you're going to make these Taurus missiles that you're going to be sending to Ukraine. And Zelensky is in seventh heaven because he's now getting weapons again. They're being delivered from Donald Trump. Donald Trump is pledging lots of money, got lots of money pledged from Europe, sending lots of the long-range weapons. So the war is on, baby. So this is some big stuff. So this is going to be continuing for quite some time. It's going to get worse. So it's very, very nasty. So I guess you can, I don't know, Ukraine is getting worse and worse, and they're grabbing up more and more people. Now they got these units from Colombia, believe it, from Colombia. And they even show them, and it's like a whole, it's like a battalion It's more than a company, much more than a company. There's a, you know, a company is normally about 200 people in a battalion. You know, you maybe have 5 companies, maybe. You know, that's a big battalion. If you have 5 companies of 200, 200 each, so, you know, that's 1,000 soldiers. I didn't see 1,000 here, but it's much bigger than a company. It was looking like in this group, there might have been like at least 350. I don't know if that was all of them. And of course, I've seen companies that had only 40 soldiers, you know, like the special forces types of companies and stuff that, you know, that I was, you know, working around and things like that. I think maybe the company was 50 people. I don't know. And then I was in a headquarters company then as well. It was like 200 people, so that was about the regular size. Anyway, different sizes of companies, and so a battalion might only have I don't know, 500 people, not 1,000. So I guess that would be a Colombian battalion that was probably there. And yeah, they're fighting for Ukraine. You know, they have a big recruiting office in Colombia. Yes. Okay. Now it says, I was saying yesterday that, you know, some of these massive strikes, there's over 100 dead, and then one bombing raid that Israel did, they killed 79 people, and they had these strikes near the University of Gaza. And I guess they just now put out this morning, you know, from yesterday, there was altogether, I believe, 150 people that Israel killed in Gaza altogether. So that was, I guess for them, a very productive day. You know, they did it before, they were killing 150 a day, but, you know, lately it's maybe, who knows how many they're killing a day on average, maybe 50, but yesterday was a little bit more productive, 150 civilians that they killed, children and things like that, bombing, you know. And then they show a lot of this footage. You see all these bombs in these areas, huge, you know. Oh man, what a world we're living in. But anyway, people, it's probably a very long video. I just can't see with the sunlight. Hey, it's just a little under an hour. That's amazing. I thought it would be like an hour and a half. Anyway, I'll upload this video. I might be traveling somewhere today. Maybe I'll make a video. I don't know if you guys are interested in those sort of videos, or if you just like the news videos. And I'm not putting out that much news because you're hearing a lot of this stuff on a lot of other platforms anyway. You know, some of the other news you might be interested in, I should say it, I think it's worth noting, is that it's pretty much proven, as much as you can prove it, that Brigitte Macron was a man, or maybe still is a man. I have no idea. She obviously had some, anyway, her genetics is probably a man. She's very upset that it's been discovered. And anyway, I guess that's what that's all about. And Macron, everybody knows that I know, you know, there's photos of him, and it's not any kind of a deep fake stuff, where he's kissing other men and things like that. And there's other evidence about things. And we all know now about Starmer and the bum boys that he had there. And of course, these people have a lot of control over lots of media, and they just make sure that it disappears. Nobody's talking about it, so we all forget about it. And then, like, it's even like in 4 months, you're gonna start to remember, oh, that's right. These homosexual guys were burning some of the property of Keir Starmer. And, you know, but nobody's talking about it because all of us bloggers, you know, you go on to other news stories, and this one and the next one, and you gotta, you know, you don't want to keep repeating the old stuff. But it's actually worth remembering a lot of these things. And Candace Owens, you know, she got a call from Donald Trump, as you guys know, and Donald Trump said, oh, you know, leave it alone and all that. And Candace Owens, quite a woman. So that's all I have to say for that one. And yeah, that's all I'm putting out for right now. Thank you guys for joining me. Maybe I'll put another one out tonight or this afternoon, or whatever. Who knows how long this one's going to take. Hopefully not 20 hours like YouTube does for me a lot of time, maybe because of what I talked about, these laboratories. They don't like that. Okay, I'll see you on the next one. Bye bye.